ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tex Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here again. Once again, we're broadcasting out of Elk River, Minnesota, which is probably about an hour, and usually takes about an hour and 15 minutes to drive to the Ogilvie Speedway. Takes about half an hour to drive to the Princeton Speedway. About an hour and a half to get to the Cedar Lake Speedway. Wilmer KRA Speedway, that's closer to maybe 2 hours away. The Montevideo Fiesta City Speedway, that's maybe 3 hours away. Alexandria Viking Speedway, you'd have to go about 2.5 hours north to get to there. The Arlington Speedway, which is a half-mile dirt track, that's about 45 minutes south of here. And those are about the mainstays that I go to. Of course, there's also Granite City Speedway in St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is just about an hour. So we're almost at the heart of central Minnesota and of Minnesota country as well. Now, I guess Princeton Speedway is technically IMCA sanctioned, and North Central and Brainerd is also IMCA sanctioned, so they're not quite as superior as Wissota Speedway, as a Wissota sanctioning body is. So we usually just try to stick to Wissota sanctioned racetracks, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that being said, this is Saturday morning. It's January 5th, 2019. We're just rumbling forward into 2019, knocking the days down, just trying to pump out as many shows out there to you, the viewing audience, as possible, so that you guys can make healthy decisions and be great again, and hopefully be entertained to some extent too. Or just use the talk show as an example of what not to do if you ever were to run a talk show yourself. So there's also that to consider. And I apologize for the last show we had. The camera was just weirdly zoomed in for some reason, but see, what had happened is I got way caught up in all the lighting apparatuses and moving the lights around and playing around with that. Then when we finally did turn on the camera, there was a big line that went up and down the wall here, which was a lot more pronounced once the lighting was on. So I went ahead and I zoomed it in as a remedy to get rid of the line, without actually taking into consideration how close up the picture would be. So that was absolutely a mistake on my part. I mean, we have a skeleton crew filming and everything, so they weren't able to identify and rectify the issue while filming. And then, of course, we're not going to redo the show because number one, we don't really have the time to, and number two, it takes a lot of energy and input for the show to get it right. So if we were to keep repeating the show over and over and over again, then we'd start to look like drones and automatons. And for you, ladies and gentlemen at home, that would just not be fair. It'd be a slap in the face. It'd be like this. Think of doing a repeat show is basically a generic or an imitation of the original, which is why we just go ahead and post the original. Even if it's a massively weird close-up and you can see all the banana stains on my teeth, it's still not a big issue because it's for the most part, that's about as close as live TV as we're going to get, just mostly because we're too lazy to edit. But yeah, we will do some editing as far as background pictures and sounds and noises and everything like that too. But as far as trying to change up things to look good or look professional, that's just not something that we do here. It's really not that important. And yeah, it's going to look amateur every once in a while, but that's okay. That's just going to take the wheel and drive. We don't need to worry too much about silly finagling with minor details here and there. But yeah, we don't necessarily need the lighting this morning because we have the natural lighting and everything like that too. Now we have contemplated possibly getting maybe some overhead sunlight, or they call them roof lights or ceiling lights, ceiling lamps. Well, not lamps, lights, natural light. Skylight is what I think that might be a brand name of some of them. Basically, they just cut a hole in your ceiling, put a window up there, and in most parts of the country that probably works, but one of the problems we face in Minnesota is we have constant freezing, thawing, melting, cooling, heating cycles, and the seal in there is usually always break down over a time of 10, 20, 30 years. Because when you put some junk on your house, you want it to last a very long time. It's not something you just slap up there that hope to last for 3 months and then call it good and sell it on to Joe Bag of Donuts or Big Joe Rosso. So I mean, skylight would definitely help with the lighting in here. And hell, it might even be something we do because I mean, honestly, our studios here, it's probably the facilities that the studios are built on. They're not really made for hundreds or thousands of years. It's not like we're broadcasting out of one of those giant medieval Gothic castles in Europe or anything like that. I mean, it's just some stick and wood and, I mean, this is plywood here, or drywall, whatever you call it. So, I mean, it's not really built to last, like Duralast. If Duralast built houses, they probably would build those Gothic ancient medieval stone castles that are susceptible to water, or not susceptible to water damage. That's mostly what damages house, because rotten wood, see, wet wood, when a tree is living, it loves water. When it's dead, not so much, because there's a lot of impurities in water and it reacts with the dead bark, and then it breaks it down, and also breaks down everything in your house too. Now yeah, there are some, the buffalo board or particle board, whatever the case may be, once that gets hit with water, it basically just turns into sawdust. And that's one of the reasons why if you have laminate flooring, you definitely don't want to get it wet, especially because when you push it together, there's still, tiny openings in all those slots too. So the water can definitely get in there. Water pretty much gets in anywhere that's not absolutely 100% sealed. So water damage is definitely something to look out for. All right, we need to get into some of these news articles, ladies and gentlemen, because we got a couple of them today. I happened to come across a new website the other day, healthline.com. It's basically an extension of, see, first it started with naturalnews.com, then greenmedinfo.com, medicaldaily.com, then it went to naturalhealth365.com, and now it's healthline.com. These are all great websites, no doubt about that, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll most likely be, see, I got a Microsoft Word of all the important websites to go to, and definitely adding to them, but we're also removing some of the old ones too that just don't have that much valuable information. Westernjournal.com, they don't really update it that much. It's not very valuable. So we'll probably replace that with Healthline or naturalhealth365.com. And there are a lot of great websites out there. I mean, as far as their credibility and stuff like that, I mean, I'm not entirely sure. Most of these refer and cite sources of studies at universities or private institutions that some of them could be funded by dirty money, so that's also something that we try to look at and pay close attention to. But usually if we read something that makes sense, it aligns with common sense, then it's something that we can absolutely espouse to you, ladies and gentlemen at home. So what the article's title was, How Bitters Help Shut Down Your Brain's Desire for Sugar. Consuming bitter foods shut down receptors in the brain that drive sugar consumption, because when you start eating sugar, even when you see food, you may have noticed before if you're cooking a frozen pizza or something, your salivary glands will actually start building up. It's preparing to break down that food, which is why you've probably seen images before of a dog foaming at the mouth when he's, well, I mean, they do it when they're like have rabies and stuff. But if they want to eat a food and they get really hungry, they start foaming at the mouth because your saliva is building up. So it's not a psychological feeling. It is actually something that is physically happening. So if you eat bitter food, it'll shut down a lot of those addictions or cravings for the sugar. It releases hormones PYY, GLP-1 that suppress appetite, and it's some of the common bitter agents include artichoke, burdock root, dandelion root, citrus peel, licorice root, gentian root, and wormwood. I personally haven't really heard of any of them. As far as licorice root goes, a long time ago I used to consume what was called anise extract. Tasted a lot like black licorice. It wasn't much on flavor, but it had some other effects too, which I was desiring at that time. Not so much anymore. I mean, that time of experimentation, it was mostly just a long-term chemistry experiment that I just did on myself for a couple of years. And it was a legal experiment too, because the ingredients that I was looking for in anise extract was legally obtainable. Whereas if I were to get those similar ingredients elsewhere, I would need an ID to say I was a certain age. So it was just easy enough to buy the anise extract. Now, does that mean I'm recommending the kids at home to do that? Absolutely not. It's a very bad choice. It's an experimentation that failed, and one that I've been able to unequivocally say is a bad choice. So definitely one that we don't recommend on text messages here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as far as all these other bitter agents, artichoke, you can definitely find a lot of recipes to mix in with that. Citrus peel, pretty much any citrus fruit, lemon, lime, orange, all that good fun stuff. Wormwood, some of this stuff I've never even heard of. I mean, yeah, chickens like to eat worms and everything too, but I suspect that wormwood may be a slight deviation from that. And another thing you'll find out too is when you stop eating sweet foods, over time you'll start to enjoy things like pecans, tree nuts, yogurt, celery, fruit, vegetables, a lot more. Fruit is probably one thing that has a lot of sugar in it, so it's always going to taste sweet. But for example, there are times where if I eat, say, an orange, an organic orange, of course, not the pesticide-riddled ones, but it feels like it's almost coating your taste buds. So then when you try to eat pecans or walnuts or pistachios, they won't taste as good. So that's why it always seems like it's a good idea to, after eating fruit, to at least wash out your mouth a little bit, so that it kind of gets the sweetness off your taste buds, and you can actually enjoy the other foods too. Because you definitely want to be able to enjoy foods. You may have heard the motto before, the slogan, if it tastes good, it's probably not healthy for you. Which is likely the case with a lot of these synthetic products that like aspartame and sucralose, high fructose corn syrup, that are specifically designed just to trigger your taste buds for sweetness. You know, they're 200 times sweeter than sugar, and they're just very bad and deleterious for you. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to choke down food every time you eat it, because if you have to choke down food, your body is likely not creating the saliva glands, and the rest of your body is probably not creating the necessary ingredients to break down the food, because it doesn't technically want it. I mean, your body seems to know what's healthy, but you can also trick it too. You know, it's like attraction to members of the opposite sex. I mean, you can obviously see if somebody's healthy, so you're attracted to them. Now, if they take on a bunch of makeup and everything too, you're not, you know, it's more deceptive and coercive, and you're not really able to accurately ascertain whether they're healthy or not. So you might still be falsely attracted to them, but then once the makeup comes off, you realize that it's a whole different ballgame, and that they're very unhealthy people and sick and dumbed down and everything too. So then, I suppose it'd be time to run for the hills then. But that's why, you know, we don't deceive anybody on this show, ladies and gentlemen. And as far as you know, artificial sweeteners, that is basically the equivalent of food makeup, and it's something that I definitely stay away from. And especially sugars too. Absolutely need to stay away from them. But another article from Healthline.com, Pro-biotics 101 Beginner's Guide. So the bacteria cells in the body outnumber the rest of the cells about 10 to 1, and most of them are in the gut. And gut health is linked to many things like weight loss, digestion, immune function, healthier skin, and reduced risk of disease, like just common cold and the flu. Does that mean you need to get vaccination for flu and common cold and any other weird, silly ailments? Probably not. But I mean, if you want to stick random needles in your body and trust people's word for it, then I suppose that for the placebo effect, that may be a better prerogative. Usually bacteria, but certain types of yeast also function as probiotics. Foods that have probiotics include kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, tempeh, and kimchi. Now, most people probably don't really consume those types of foods. Similar to the bitter agents, they're just not very common in most diets. And a lot of people, sometimes, not a lot, but occasionally at the grocery store, I'll see people just load up their car with a bunch of yogurts and everything like that. So I mean, obviously they're probably having some type of digestive issues, and possibly it's a lactose intolerance, which is something that they may want to consider. See, if you're eating a bunch of yogurt and you're ripping ass everywhere, try the lactate pills. Those definitely help with breaking down the lactose in the yogurt, because it contains the lactase, and lactase is what's necessary to break down the yogurt. And they also have probiotics in a little bottle. You can buy it. InfoWars store, InfoWarsLifeProducts.com. Golden Health Products is where I got one for a while. You can just go to the regular store too. They got some health products, like Swanson Health Products, I think, has them, and other different brand names where they sell the probiotics in a jar. Now you don't want to mistake probiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics actually feed the probiotics. That would be like if you, a human, are a probiotic and a slice of pizza is a prebiotic. So the bacteria would be you, the pizza would be the prebiotic. That's basically how prebiotics match up with probiotics. So occasionally you'll see a food product that's advertised as containing a lot of prebiotics, and it's healthy and great, and it's going to make you great again and your family great again. So yeah, I mean, it's just a good idea to pay close attention to the labeling. Now, the community in the gut is called gut flora or microbiota. There's up to 1,000 variations, mostly in the colon and the large intestines. Now, the gut manufactures a lot of the vitamins too, and it turns fiber into short-chain fats like butyrate, propionate, and acetate, which feed gut wall and perform metabolic functions. So I mean, there's really, some people have even argued that your body is basically a host for your gut. So your gut is essentially the living entity in your body, and then the rest of your body just is there to support your gut and to walk around with it and everything. Think of Krang from the old Turtles. He was a brain inside a robotic machine. See, Krang would be the digestive system, and then the rest of the machine would be the body, because it's just walking around. So the gut is actually a living, breathing Well, bacteria, I suppose, doesn't breathe traditionally like humans using oxygen and everything. You just feed it the prebiotics, then it's good to go. So it is essentially a living creature that exists within you, with you, symbiotically with you, mind with matter and all that. So that's why when you work together with these other individual entities that are also just wanting to exist in the world with you, that includes plants, animals, wildlife, everything. Everyone all high tides raise all ships. So that's why you try not to work against probiotics or anything like that, because they will help you. Probiotic supplements cures antibiotic-induced projectile diarrhea. So a lot of people that take antibiotics for a very long time, then they start to get a lot more stomach ailments and they're not able to digest as much food. And it's basically because the antibiotics is killing off all the probiotics. And the probiotics will regrow, but they obviously need some supplementation or healthy food like the sauerkraut, kefir, yogurt, tempeh, and kimchi, or the pills and everything from InfoWarsLife.com. So some of the diseases that it reduces, we've touched base on this before, but it reduces inflammation, depression, anxiety, lowers the low-density liponucleic cholesterol, which is supposedly the bad cholesterol. See, the thing with cholesterol is, a long time ago there's a doctor that said that mostly the reason why people have high cholesterol is because they're eating too many of the bad fats, like the omega-6 fats or the whatever trans fats, and then they get into the blood and then they start to create these scar tissues on your veins and your arteries. And then the cholesterol goes in there to cure it. So the cholesterol is basically a scab. And if you have high cholesterol, it's because you have lots of that scarring in your blood vessels. So it's not really incumbent, or it's not really advantageous to remove the cholesterol, because that's what's trying to reduce the scarring. Essentially what you want to do is reduce the scarring. So that would be the reduction of the trans fats and the omega-6 fats and all these other dangerous, poisonous artificial fats that at room temperature are solid, are in a solid state, like a gel state or whatever. See, like olive oil in a room temperature is just silky smooth. Coconut oil solidifies at room temperature. Once it gets about mid-80s and it liquefies, but it's probably not so bad for you. It is considered a saturated fat though, so you may want to pay close tabs with that. Probiotic supplementation also reduces blood pressure and enhances immune function, so it can fight off diseases like common cold and flu. And skin health, it's great for acne, rosacea, and eczema. So I mean, it just makes your skin look great again. Now it's probably not gonna change the color of your skin if that's what you're looking for. But ultimately, skin is the biggest organ in the body. It's the first line of defense against all things you come into physical contact with, so it's very important to have skin health. Sometimes your skin, what's happening on your skin too, is an indicator of what's going on underneath your body as well. See, not only is your skin fighting outside invaders, it's also fighting inside invaders and trying to eradicate them out of your system. If you've ever got, say, a sliver before, yeah, it hurts like hell, and if you're not able to remove it right away, it'll probably sit in your body for a few weeks till finally the skin will push it up to above all the layers and then finally out of your body. So the skin has multiple layers. When people get tattoos and everything, they probably get down into the third or fourth layer, and then it just kind of hangs out there. And when you get down to that deep of a layer, apparently when your skin replaces whatever cells are down there, it replaces them with the ink-colored skin. I guess is apparently how that works. So yeah, over time tattoos fade and everything too, and I'm not sure what the health ramifications are of them. Yeah, some of them look pretty cool. The Undertaker had some pretty cool tattoos. Bam Bam Bigelow, he had some cool ones. So yeah, they do look pretty cool. Sometimes, yeah, maybe being cool is worth any sort of mysteries and the health effects. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the conclusion of this show. We're glad to have you here once again. We absolutely salute you. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.